Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to present our study entitled Psychometric Validation of the Creative Disposition Scale for Pre-Service Elementary School Teachers in the Context of Education for Sustainable Development. In this study, my research team aims to examine whether the CDS that we adapted is valid and reliable instrument to assess creative disposition of Indonesian pre-service elementary school teachers. This is the background and rationale of our study. As we know that ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, require teachers to go beyond simply delivering content. Teachers are expected to design innovative pedagogy and also contextually responsive learning experiences that can prepare learners to solve complex sustainability challenges. Therefore, creativity has become one of the essential competencies for future teachers. However, although creativity is widely recognized as important, there is still a lack of validated instrument which is specifically designed to measure creative disposition of pre-service elementary school teachers, particularly in the context of designing instruction or lesson. Therefore, to address this gap, this study tried to adapt Creative Disposition Scale or CDS from Sangpaya and colleges and contextualize it into Indonesian context, especially related to pre-service elementary school teachers through rigorous psychometric evaluation. This study employed a quantitative psychometric validation. Originally, the instrument consisted of 18 items from Sangpaya and colleges, and then we do translation and adaptation so that it meet the context of Indonesian elementary teacher education. And it also related to instructional design, not creative disposition in general. The scale is in form of Likert scale with 5 points ranging from 1 to 5, from never to very frequent. And then the content validity was evaluated by 3 experts representing expert in Indonesian linguistics who also have a certificate in creative thinking, and then elementary teacher education lecturer, and also 1 expert in educational evaluation. All these 3 experts assess each item using the item objective congruence method or IOC with an acceptance threshold of 0.5. And then finally, for construct validity, we examine using responses from 80 fifth, 6th semester PGSD students at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia Purwakarta Kampus. And then the data were analyzed using Jamovi statistical app through 3 aspects. First, confirmatory factor analysis, and then Cronbach alpha and McDonald's omega, and then corrected item test correlation for its discriminating power. Now let us begin with the validity results. For content validity, all 18 items achieve an IOC score of 1. This indicates that we have agreement among all 3 experts that every item was relevant and appropriate. Therefore, all 18 items proceeded to the pilot testing phase with 80 participants. And then regarding the construct validity, we do confirmatory factor analysis in Jamovi, and the CFA retained only 15 items across 7 factors or 7 dimensions. The first value, the chi-square divided by degrees of freedom, was 1.913, indicating that the instrument has good model fit. And then the SRMR was 0.061, which also met the recommended threshold. However, as we can see, there is CFI and TLI values that were slightly below the recommended cutoff of 0.9, which is indicating that the fit is marginal. And then the RMSEA also exceeded the ideal threshold. Overall, these findings suggest that the model demonstrates acceptable but not optimal fit, indicating that further refinement is needed to improve the measurement model. And then next, we also evaluated the reliability of the instrument. The overall scale demonstrate excellent internal consistency with Cronbach alpha of 0.915 and McDonald's omega of 0.917. In addition, corrected item total correlations range from 0.4 something to 0.7, indicating that all retained items showed good to excellent discriminating power. However, at the subscale level, as you can see, it's quite varied. 3 dimension, including perception, problem solving, and also initiative and aesthetics aspect showed acceptable reliability. However, openness and perseverance were classified as marginal. And then the last two, the merged self-image and motivation dimension, as well as deep feelings indicator, showed relatively low reliability. This finding indicate that while the overall instrument is highly reliable, but several subscales require further refinement. So here are our key findings and implication. Overall, our findings support the use of creative disposition scale as a reliable composite measure. Although the model fit was only marginal, this result may be influenced by the relatively small sample size of 80 participants and the merging of one dimension during analysis due to statistical reason, not theoretical reason. We have to check it again. And then, importantly, all retained items demonstrate satisfactory discriminating power. Therefore, we recommend using the total score of the CDS as a formative screening or diagnostic measure to identify students who may benefit from creativity development before teaching practice takes place. But because some subscales showed limited reliability, as we see earlier, particularly in indicator CD5, CD6, and CD8, this subscale score should not yet be used for high-stakes decision or individual evaluation. Therefore, in our future studies, we will include larger and more diverse samples. It also suggested that we should develop additional items for weaker dimensions and investigate predictive validity with outcomes, such as the product of lesson plan quality or maybe teaching performance. For the conclusion, this study demonstrates that the adapted 15-item CDS can be said has satisfactory psychometric properties for use among Indonesian pre-service elementary school teachers. It achieved perfect content validity, excellent overall reliability, and acceptable construct validity. Yet, although several individual dimensions require further refinement, the evidence still support using the CDS primarily as a composite measure of creative disposition. We believe this instrument can serve as a practical evidence-based assessment tool to support teacher education program that aim to prepare future teacher for ESD. So thank you very much for your attention. I will be happy to answer any question. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.